Hey, everybody. Welcome to my show, a call to podcast. I call it an excuse just to be on a microphone and try and talk to people for the 4.9 listeners that might be here today. What I do is I like to introduce you to people that are my friends. They're extremely talented in what they do for a living. They're total professionals. I'm not really looking to make a referral. I'm looking to make an introduction. And today, man, do I have the pleasure to be with a dear friend of mine who is absolutely going to rock your world. And so let me tell you a quick story. Man, I'm excited, Chris, to have you on here. For those of you who don't know, this is my good friend, Chris King. We met a while back in a networking group of all places. Fast forward to a Christmas dinner. And really what I would say, I feel like other than sharing a name, I probably share more beliefs and similarities about life and what's really important with you than people I've known my whole life. So I'd like to say thanks for taking the hot seat. It's not really a hot seat for a guy like you. You're used to being in front of a microphone. You're used to talking to large crowds of people. But dude, I'm glad you're here today so we can just have an excuse to have a cup of coffee and have some conversation.
I feel the exact same way. Like getting me to talk to you is super easy. Getting me to like distance myself or shut up, that's a whole different skill set. And so, but the opportunity to sit down with you and spend time is, I'll spend the whole day with you.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that. Let's just jump right into it. You spend your life helping people get better. You want to spend your life helping people to think differently. And for some people, they'll look at you and say, oh, he's a motivational coach. Oh, he's a shaman who's going to give me a recipe. Oh, he's going to try and change my way I think or something along those lines. Although you get categorized into this like you're a coach, right? Even though I know you don't love that term. How does a guy like you, who I've watched help people change the way they think about their lives, how do you avoid that stigma of, I'm just another coach to help someone get better?
Being shamelessly abrasive about that, I think, is the way to do it. Yeah. Like I'll tell people, most people, I think they have some kind of construct in their mind about what a coach is and what a coach does. Sure. And I'll just go down the list of those things, here's all the things I don't do. And it's everything that they know that a coach does.
Okay, so hold on. So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Like, what does that look like? Like I come to you and say, hey, Chris, I'm kind of stuck in this space. I want to grow I'm stuck. Like, what are the 3 or 4 things that you tell me, listen, this is what I'm not going to do that you might see labeled as a coach or something like that?
Well, I'm not going to be an overpriced accountability partner that just asked you, did you do it? Why didn't you do it? How do you feel about not doing it? Okay, now go do it, right? I'm not going to get into the weeds on leadership development or team building or culture problems or narcissist CEOs or general dumpster fires. Like, I just don't do dumpster fire, right? Yeah. You know, my organization was built to do one thing and one thing only, and that is that which cannot be done. And I joke about this. I've said this in meetings, so maybe you've heard me say this, but the whole principle of this company was built on a philosopher that I saw when I was, 5 or 6 years old. And the quote was, "I'm so crazy, I don't know this isn't possible." The philosopher was Daffy Duck. Like that's the whole foundation of this business.
I love that. I have heard you say that standing up in improvising meetings, and it's just now. Because not only is the quote so perfect, but the author really kind of sums it up even more so, puts like the pretty bow on it. Yeah. Because not just in our networking group together, anybody who's been in business for a certain period of time, they all say, listen, Warren Buffett has a coach. Every successful person has some sort of coach. But that is the watered down version, right, of what we hear these people do. And it's one of the reasons why I think coaches have a bad rap, because those things that you're saying that you don't do is what most of us think, what a waste of my time is going to be. So fast forward now to when you say, listen, here's the 3 things I'm not going to do. Let me tell you what I am going to do. What is that 1 or 2 bullet points that's going to kind of differentiate you from someone who's thinking, oh, here's another coach that's going to build my culture differently?
I'm going to align somebody with the reality that they desperately want to experience and don't think they can have. It's a function of alignment, right? There's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. They're simply aligned or misaligned. Like if you want to grow your business or have a certain kind of relationship or whatever the experience in this life is that you want. It's a function of alignment through the lenses of psychology, neurochemistry, energy fields, right? You're either aligned or misaligned. Like the way that I've said it, I think best is the life that you want to experience is like this incredible piece of sheet music it's like cosmic sheet music that has never been played before in human history. You are the perfect musician and instrument to play that music. My job is to train that musician and tune the instrument.
Okay. What's the biggest hurdle? I think as you know, we've talked about this. I've battled with my weight my whole life. I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not overweight, but I've battled with my weight my whole life, up and down, physically, psychologically, emotionally. I've battled with procrastination. My whole life in certain areas, I procrastinate. Somewhere in there's a stumbling block for me, right? That I'm not able to overcome those two things on my own. How is it that I know every person's different. I imagine those are the type of things that people might be stuck with where I don't know how to read that sheet music, but man, I want to learn how to read that sheet music. What is stopping someone like me from reading that sheet music?
That's a long list. It can be your
We have 7 hours. So.
Okay, good. It can be your self-concept, right? It's who you think you are, and it's very difficult to do something that is out of the range of your self-concept. If you
self-doubt, I've got some self-doubt in that area, maybe.
Self-doubt can be a
Just
part
curious.
of it, but most of this stuff, they're not the problem, they're the result. Like procrastination's not the problem. It's the result of the problem. Sure. And it's actually probably a strategy. I mean, look, if I take this at the corporate level, if somebody calls me and says, Chris, we got employee retention problems, that's not your problem. That's the result of your problem, right? So the same kind of thing is like, if you procrastination is the result of your problem, and it's probably a strategy, right? Most of these behaviors, these unconscious psychodynamics, these are strategies that you have learned, developed, and employed, and they are designed to do something, and they're working very well, right? It might be a self-sabotage thing or whatever, but that's a strategy designed to do this. And so understanding what is my strategy, what's it designed to do, and how is it in my way, like digging out of all of this stuff, that's how you get the rust off the bolt. Yeah,
because I imagine, you hear, we hear and see everything now, especially with social media, phones, so much different now in the 2000s and the 90s and all that stuff. There's so much of what's out there of that concept of, I think most people don't realize what you just said. The result's the problem, right? Like if I procrastinate and I forget to do a task, the forgetting of the task and not executing on something, that's the problem. I got to find out how to try and get better to avoid the result of that, right?
There's an accountability piece here. Like, I forgot that's not what the issue is, right? I forgot is the result. It's the excuse, right? Like we offload responsibility all the time. I'm going to give you common phrases that offload responsibility. Sure. I can't afford it. Sure. I didn't have time. I suck at it, right? They didn't get back to me. Yeah. Right? I forgot. No. I forgot. These are the results. Like, I didn't have time. Okay, what's that a result of? I didn't make time. Right? That's the result, right? Right. People that look through have or have not dynamics tend to have not. Money, time, space, physical space, whatever, energy. If you look through have and have not dynamics, you tend to have not. And so when you recognize, look, everything I have here is a resource, time, money, energy, space, whatever. These are all resources. So it becomes a question of allocation. If I can't afford it, it means I have not budgeted for that. Right? Which is something I can affect. I can't affect have or have not. Either I have it or I don't. Sure. I didn't have time. I did have time. If I don't have time, but if I recognize, I can't allocate it. If I have the time, it's a question of allocation. And so it's like, okay, so what is it that I'm doing here? This is a strategy by which I'm offloading responsibility. Yeah. Now, the act of offloading responsibility, I know I'm down the rabbit hole a little bit here, but trust me on this one.
I like it.
Okay, the act of offloading responsibility, right? That is an active action, okay? Sure. Basic neuroscience, feelings drive actions. So what is behind the feeling of the offloading of responsibility? Generally, it's gonna be one of two things, fear or shame. If I can get rid of the fear or get rid of the shame, you can say, you know what? I did have time. I didn't allocate that time, right? But I said, oh, I didn't have it because I'm ashamed or I'm afraid, right?
Yeah.
I'm afraid you're going to get mad at me.
Is that the hardest part to help them overcome to a certain degree? Is like how to get out of, I'm not going to, this is the wrong word, trauma, to get out of the trauma of the shame or fear that's preventing them from becoming a have versus a have not.
I'm going to sound like an attorney here.
Yeah,
it depends.
No. I love it. Because you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I like to get, sometimes I can listen, and sometimes my undiagnosed ADHD needs to just interrupt. It's my podcast. And just look at someone and say, stop what you're thinking because I have a thought. But yeah, break that down. And I know it depends, but let me backtrack for a quick second. Let me throw something at you. One of my best philosophies, my personal philosophies in life that I'm grateful I've been able to use, that I've shared with my adult children and even my clients for 32 years. Hear me out for a second. You can only have one most important thing in every decision you make. And here's where I come from that. I like onion bagels. Long story. I either want to look better with my shirt off or I want the bagel. I can't have both. If I want to look better with my shirt off, I can't have the bagel. That means the most important thing is how I look with my shirt off. Okay. But if I really want that bagel, the most important thing is I'm going to eat the bagel, not how I'm going to look with my shirt off, right? So for me, not to dumb it down, I can only have one most important thing in every relationship, every decision. My wife, who you know, does 9 out of 10 things perfectly. And that 1 out of 10 thing makes me want to put a fork in my eye. She knows this, and you know that she knows this. But the moral of the story, and then I'll shut up, is the most important thing is the 9 great things that she does, not the one thing that I can't stand that makes me want to vomit. You know what I mean? So take my kind of like life philosophy that I use and some of the comments you've made with it really depends on how someone is going to view the have versus the have not.
Well, you're talking about a few different things here. There's conditioned.
Which I typically do.
So you're talking about conditioned responses, right? So reconditioning yourself to a new thing can be, it's generally very simple. That doesn't make it easy though, right? Simple and easy are not the same thing. Yeah. So recondition, now it can be, like you can have that one, moment that creates that difference. Yeah. When you're focused on the one thing that makes you want to put a fork in your eye, it has a profound effect on your neurochemistry and your psychology. And again, this affects your feeling state. Feelings drive actions. Actions produce results, right? Everything is a system. Look, I'm just a systems hacker, right? Yeah. So by focusing on the 9 things that you love, you create a different kind of neurochemical thing going on. The neurotransmitters are firing differently, and so you produce a different result. And so This is that function of alignment, right? It's like picking a lock of a door or something. It's like, how do I align the tumblers to unlock it and open the door? The same is true with...
Great analogy.
Right, so that's the same thing, thoughts, feelings, action, your very belief system. Yeah. All of this, your energy, it all has to be aligned perfectly like those tumblers so you can open the door. Yeah.
That's such I try not to use the word dumb it down, but that is such a great like dumb it down analogy with that tumbler and that, because I think I have someone very close to me in my life who leads this glorious life. I mean, really leads this great life and cannot get out of the glasses half empty syndrome. And we've shared, I've had some significant things go on in my life from childhood to adulthood and trauma, and we all have traumas, and mine's not better, easier, worse, less than anyone else. We all have them. And I always say, by the grace of God, somehow I am able to, for the most part, find joy in everything. I don't know if I even did something right to have that, but I've got someone very close in my life. It doesn't matter how good everything is. At the first sign of something happened, it's just immediate, like doom and gloom, and that's the focus. So when I hear you talk about that, it's crazy to me how that is it a DNA thing? Is it a chemical in your brain? Is it training? Is it? It depends, because we all know there's some people that can just find the joy in life regardless of the circumstance, and there's others that could lead these beautiful lives that all they focus on is that the air conditioning bill was $400 instead of $300. How do you? Everyone's different. You must come across that often.
Yeah, I worked for this guy when I was 19, and he used to say, he had this phrase, he would say, she wouldn't be happy if I hung her with a brand new rope. Right? It's like the kind of person that wins the lotto and then complains about the fucking taxes, Right.
100%, right? Like that's the first thing.
So like with my work, it is a massive, massive scoop of personal responsibility, because ultimately it's a function of awareness, choice, and capability. Right. So it's like you have the awareness of something, and then you have a choice. The second you become aware of it, you have a choice. Now, you may or may not have that capability to make a choice. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've known what I was supposed to do, right? What the aligned choice was. I wasn't capable because of my conditioned responses, because of unhealed complex trauma, because of addiction, because of whatever, right? So there's the capability to make that choice. And so it's like, okay, what is the responsible choice that I need to make that is aligned with what it is I want or where I'm going? What is the capability I need in order to be able to do that?
To achieve it.
Right. And so, but it all starts with personal responsibility. You have a choice here. You do.
You have a choice.
Right.
Dude, you know what's crazy? You've seen this podcast. You know almost everyone I've interviewed so far. And I will tell you, there's a recurring theme of everyone. And I learned something new about someone, even though I've known them for years and I've broke bread with them and had you with my family. You've probably said that word alignment a million times at a meeting, or I've seen you stand up and talk about something. And it just registered with me, the focus of that word with you. And I'm sure I heard it a million times, but I just registered really understanding now that word alignment and how you use that to help people understand that better. Now you brought something up. So I typically don't start out with this much work and what you do for a living, because I'd rather talk about personal stuff.
You can't separate me from work.
Well,
I mean, I've monetized being this guy. So
well, and this is where we're going to really uncover that, just so you know.
All
so
right,
I know a little bit about your story, right? And so and I did not do this intentionally, but one of the reasons I love that it went down this path is because I feel like, and now it's really gonna, now that people can hear about, kind of, I hate to say it, what you do for a living and what you're passionate about, now we're going to uncover that just a little bit. So you were homeless for a while in your life. And so give me a couple minutes on what that's like to be homeless. And then probably more importantly, what I really want, now 4.9 audience members listening, now what I really want is to know how much of that drove you to where you are today. Because you've had a shit ton of success in your career. I'm not saying your life's perfect. We all have challenges, right? But you have taken significant trauma and despair that most people would not be able to leave the fetal position, and you've taken it, and now you've gone to a different level of execution. You may not think that about yourself, but it's true. So
yeah, I really don't.
I know you don't, but I think that's one of the reasons why you're successful, is because you don't look at yourself as, oh, I've overcome, I've become. No, you look at yourself as saying, this is where my life was, this is where I am now, and this is why I love helping people. So give me a couple minutes and tell me about what it's like being homeless, because I don't know. And then probably more importantly, I want to know if and how that fueled you to then get to the level of success you're at today, even if you don't want to deem yourself successful.
Well, me not having a physical address was the best case scenario of that kind of scenario. Like I wasn't destitute in that, like I was, living under a bridge or something like that. Like my not having a physical address was a choice that I made in pursuit of something that I really wanted. You said something earlier about, the people that, the priority thing. What's the biggest number one priority? And I agree, in any moment, there is only one priority. You cannot pluralize that word without removing the meaning of it. Right? It's like favorites. You can't have three favorites.
Right.
If you have three, you have none, right?
Yeah.
By definition. So,
sure. Unless it's you have a niece and a nephew.
Right. Yeah.
You have to tell them both of your favorite. Yeah. You get.
No, they know. They know. Yeah, they all know.
Yeah. They know who the favorite is.
So if you're not willing to do, you got to know, is it a goal or is it a preference? If you are not willing to do what is required, it's a preference.
Sure.
Right? If you're willing to do what's required, then it's really a goal. And so, for me, I understand how this human system works. in order for me to get something that I really want, I got to have a lot of heat. If I'm going to cook this meal, I got to have a lot of heat in the oven. Now, people are different and one's not better than the other. I knew, like I had a job offer on the table because I had just gotten fired from my last tech job. And this guy called me up and he's like, he had told me that, he wished I worked for him. And so I called him up. I was like, hey, I, need a job all of a sudden. Yeah. And I went and I talked to him. He was a commercial real estate guy. And he told me about the job or whatever. And he offered this to me. And I was like, well, guaranteed paycheck, or I don't have a place to live, and I don't I lost my job, my apartment, my girlfriend, like within a few days. Right?
Yeah,
just, everything came apart.
That should be a country song,
right? It's well, it's the beginning of a movie actually from the '80s. But so but it was this crossroads. Like, well, I could take the job and then try and build this company on the side, like a side hustle kind of thing.
Sure.
The problem with that is that's not going to create enough heat. I need more pressure than that.
Yeah. Because you're not really all in.
Because I'm not all in. Yeah. I got to do the job and whatever. And, the money's going to roll in.
Most important thing is paying the rent, not building something.
Exactly. Right? And so I had friends that were willing to put me on the couch and, let me sleep there or whatever. I only spent a couple of nights in my car. And look, there were days I didn't eat, like I didn't have money. And so, if I had a few bucks for like a muffin at a coffee shop, that was all I ate for a couple of days, And so yeah, was it fun? No. But did it create enough heat? Did it create enough energy? Did it create enough urgency and desperation? Yeah, it did. And it wasn't until I really surrendered into the thing that I was building. Because I remember one day, this deal that I thought I was going to get fell through. And I'm like, I'm going to fucking die, right? And I went outside. I was at this coffee shop. I went outside and I kind of looked up and I went, you know what? I was in total surrender in that moment. Yeah. And I looked up and I said, just send me the people I can serve. Yeah. Just send me someone I can serve. And that was the day it started to roll.
Wow. I love that. Because you're able to a certain degree, you're able to recognize the surrender, right? Which I don't struggle with addiction. We've talked about this. I have a number of people in my life that are, and still do struggle with addiction. And that word, and Chris is now my wife, now a trauma therapist. That word has become so relevant to me with people in my life, not just people with addiction. But that word surrender is one of the most powerful, in my opinion, vulnerable actions someone can take, because I don't even think it's like men are filled with pride. Everyone's got some pride, right? The surrender word's really hard. Once you did that, did you feel like you could breathe a little bit differently? Do you feel like it just kind of took that, besides the benefit of maybe things started getting better, how did that make you feel emotionally? Did you take a little bit of pressure off once you were able to surrender that?
Yes, and it became a practice, right? It just wasn't one and done. I had to let that go quite a bit, and there were plenty of opportunities where I noticed I was clinging on to something, like really holding on, and I knew you got to let it go. You got to let it go because it jams up the flow of energy. Right?
When you hold on to something.
When you're holding on to something, you're just blocking flow, right? Yeah. By releasing that and letting things move, letting things flow, right? Yeah. That's if you want to swim like a champion, you have to let go of the side of the pool, right? It's terrifying, but that's the way to do it. And so once I surrendered into this idea that it wasn't about me, it wasn't about this organization, it was about what this thing is doing, what it's for, what it's in service to. And my ability to let go of my own little grabby, my little grabby human was essential, because I'm not in the customer service business. Like, I don't serve clients. I don't help clients. That's not my job. Yeah. And they don't understand this. And people even say, it's so great you help people. I'm like, yeah. Not what I do. Not at all.
Real quick, because when I say that, I believe you help people. I don't care what you think. But
it's a byproduct. Yeah, but it's not what I do.
No,
I'm in service to the music, right? Not the musician.
That's right.
I'm in service to the music, right? I say, look, there is something that, call it your soul, came here to experience. Yeah. You as a human are in its way. I'm in service to the thing trying to come through you.
Yeah.
So yes,
You're trying to make the result better. You're trying to make the music sound better.
I'm trying to get the music birthed. I'm trying to get it out in the world, right? As you have asked me to do. Yeah. And you're in its way. So the fact that I'm abrasive and in your face and relentless, right? People experience me as very challenging. They'll say, I mean, even, you know, there was people can't even, like on the website, there's this woman, she says, all I can say about working with Chris is hold on, right? Because yes, it's in your face and abrasive and rough and difficult. There's a lot of bait and switch. Like, I'm not going to tell clients why I'm asking them to do something. I'm saying, do this, and here's maybe 30% of why I'm telling you. Yeah. I need them to learn the other 70% so that it integrates, right? So it's really Machiavellian. But at the end of the day, it's ultimately in their service, right? And it does make their lives incredible. Yeah. But that's not why I do it. Okay. Right? I do it for the thing that's trying to come through them. I'm not doing it for them as the human. Yeah.
Something I love that you said that I can resemble, you know, with a little bit. Sometimes I can get in my own way, and I'm sure people can get, you know, in their own way. Chris and I went through marriage therapy a couple of times. Matter of fact, we'll be married 30 years in 2 weeks. And we will both say it has nothing to do with everything great that happened. It had to do with doing the hard work. But to bring that full circle, we went through a couple different therapists. And one of the reasons it took us a while to get through it is because some of them were a little too touchy-feely, soft. And I think that spoke to my wife. I think Chris resonated with that. I didn't do well with that. Like, I needed someone to look at me and say, hey, dumbass, if you don't do the dishes 3 times a week, even when she doesn't ask you, you're not filling that cup. And I wanted them to look at her and say, when you do this to him, this is what shuts him down because he's a male. To bring that full circle, I love that you have realize, and I'm sure it took some time to get there, there's an audience that wants you and there's an audience that doesn't. When I go to Orange Theory, I go to Orange Theory because I want someone to yell at me for 52 minutes and tell me what station to go to, what weight to press, why I got to push the treadmill to the level, because somewhere I lack that, I'm going to go to the gym by myself. How hard was that? Like, was there ever that first deal or client where you're like, I really need to pay rent this month, but I don't know if I'm the right fit for them. Can I get softy-feely, or am I, no, I'm abrasive and I'm going to wait for the abrasive person?
You're going to love this.
Because that's one of the hardest things about going on your own is how do you align yourself and say, no, this is who I am, or, oh shit, I got to pay rent this month. I may have to adjust a little bit. That happened to you?
There was a guy, I was convinced I could do the work. His name happened, of course, was Chris. And he called me. Yeah, he called me up 2 days before we were supposed to start, and he said, "Hey, man, I don't have the money yet. Like, I just need to kick it back a few more times." Now, if I don't get that money in a couple of days, I'm in real trouble. Like, I'm not going to eat. I can't put gas in the car. Like, I'm seriously screwed. Yeah. Right. And so I thought about it for this moment, and I said to him, no. I said, absolutely not. I said, this is why you are where you are. This is why you called me, because this is the thing that you have done time and time again, and it's why you don't have what you want.
You pressed him.
So get the money and get on my calendar it was 2 days, right? Get on that call in 2 days. Yeah. Months go by, he calls me up, and he tells me, I mean, he signed in, we started working together, whatever. Sure. And I think it was quite a while later that he said, if you would have let me off the hook that day, I would have lost respect for you.
I love that.
So it was in service to him. It was in service to me, right? Yeah. I wasn't doing it for the money specifically. I mean, while that was true, I was doing it because it was correct.
You believed
it was
that's
right
what
for
he
him.
needed.
It was desperate for me, but it was right for him. It was right for me. It was just everything that I said was true. Yeah. And so, and I work in a very binary world when I talk about true. Right? True means aligned or misaligned. The piano is either in tune or it's out of tune. Right? Yeah. The E string on a guitar is E. It's either there or it's not. Yeah. Right? And so and if it's out of tune, it's not E. It's not true. Yeah. Right? So it's a function, true, aligned, correct. If I go take the wheel of my mountain bike, I tell him true the wheel. It means to straighten it, to align it.
Yeah. I love that you pressed on him.
Oh, yeah.
I know you. now the 6 audience members that have finally tuned in may not know you like I do. I know you do the right thing first, which means you might tell someone, hey, I'm not a fit for you. I want to give you more money. I don't care.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah,
a fit for
I don't
you.
want to work with people that, no. That's not good for me.
But I think one of the things you've done really well, I know you don't like compliments, but it's my podcast. One of the things you do well that I think a lot of people do well, but more people don't do well, you know who you are, and you know who you can speak to and who wants to be spoken to that way. And not in an abrasive way, but in your style. That guy's a perfect example. There's an audience for people like him who say, thank God you pushed me, because if you wouldn't have, I would have thought he's not going to get me to where I want to go. He's not going to speak to me, all those things. So I really can affirm you've really narrowed that down well to understand what you do well and who your audience is. And that leads me into something else I want to talk about for a few minutes. Because as long as I've known you, I know some people personally who you have worked with. I know you don't like that word helped, but you've worked with, and they've really made some improvements based on the work they've done that you've helped them get to. Mm-hmm. You have a passion for women in the world of some C-level executives that are females, some entrepreneurs that are females. Before I ask you why, I want to tell you something about me. I owned a larger mortgage company before the market crashed. I guessed right. I'm not smart. I got out unintentionally at the right time. My management team was all women. My wife and I laugh. If I ever win the lottery and I start a foundation where I can give all the money away, I will only have women on my board. And when I've shared that with people, people say why. And I'm going to say it whether it's correct or not. In my opinion, women work harder, they're smarter, they're more detailed, they're more passionate. My favorite referrals come from women because they are so detailed and passionate about the client. Unemotionally, I just feel like women have some of the strengths that men don't have. That's why if I ever win the lottery and have a board, it's going to be all women. Mm-hmm. I know about you and your business that you are passionate, and I know you've worked with some great men. Where does that come from that you have, lack of a better term, found a way to align with women in a way that they're really being empowered to, the greatness in them is coming up more with you? What is that?
I would say that all my life I've seemed to have an attunement that a lot of my guy friends never had. You know, they would always make those jokes, oh, men don't understand women and all this. I'm like, what are you talking about right now? Like, they're not complicated. And so, but that's kind of just one of the things about it. I'd say the answer to your question is, when it comes to, I'm going to use masculine and feminine. Let's talk about energy, because it's not necessarily gender. Let's talk about energy. The feminine, I think the feminine should run the world, like in terms that she's like the CEO, right? If you think of a company, the CEO is in charge of the vision and direction. That's what the feminine's all about. She's the creative one. Yeah. She's the innovator. She's right. The masculine is the president. He's in charge of the day-to-day execute, make it happen. Right. And so if we have women that are overwhelmed, burned out, irritated with their husbands, stressed out, burning the candle at both ends, getting leftovers of their own lives, how are they possibly going to create the vision and the direction of where we're supposed to be going, right? Yeah. So you can't do it. I mean, the neurochemistry is not aligned, the psychology is not aligned, the time's not there. She's just under-resourced, right? Yeah. And so if we really are going to make significant changes in the world and in our society that are truly for the better, the feminine needs to be in charge of this. You know, the ancients in Egypt had a very matriarchal society, and that doesn't mean that the women are in charge and run everything, but it is what I'm talking about. Yeah. She's in charge of the vision direction. He's in charge of the day-to-day make it happen. Yeah. And so if we're going to make any real significant in terms of impacts in the world, we need to sort of balance this out, right? Yeah. Because we're kind of psychopathic as a society with the balance of the masculine and feminine being just distorted. Yeah. I love how you phrase that, because I make comments all the time, which I'm allowed to. You know, I can't understand how we still have some of the old white guy stuff going on in our world today. And listen, and it is what it is. We could talk about all the baffling societal confusions that we have, and everyone's interpretation of that is different. I make comments all the time when something comes up, and I'm like, how on earth is the old white guy? And my wife says, hey, by the way, you're an old white guy, which I'm aware of. Even in our networking group,
where we are based between, kind of Orange County, Southern California, and just north of us in LA County, there's been a fast transition into what I would consider to be a more level playing field in Orange County, not just with gender, but age, ethnicity. I feel like there's become this really healthy balance, always can be improved. I feel like in LA County, where I'm originally from, where you do some work in, I feel it's been a little bit slower to migrate towards that. And to bring my comment full circle, I agree with you that I don't know if I can say who should be the CEO and who should be the president, because you're going to understand that more from even just the neuroscience side of that I don't understand. But I love that that's how you feel, because what it does is it empowers people to say, listen, I think that women, the feminine would be better here and the masculine would be better here. I don't think you're saying one's better than the other. I think you're saying, I think this is their strength and this is their strength, and together that balance could make something beautiful.
It's almost a function of design. Look at ballroom dancing, right? What does the man do? He creates the frame, right? He holds the frame in the container. The woman does all the cool stylistic,
right. all the things,
like, right?
Yeah.
So that seems to be how it works. The masculine creates and holds the container so she can be fully explored and expressed. That's the masculine in service to the feminine. In return, the feminine then restores the masculine, right?
Great.
Think about it in your own marriage, right? Think about it in your own marriage.
Yeah.
How good does it feel as a man to show up and be in service to her? That feels way better than like owning, controlling, right?
It's not even on the same hemisphere.
Exactly. My ego. I mean, don't get me wrong. My ego loves what my ego loves, and
of course,
it's the difference between. I use a lot of analogies because I work in concepts, not details. So
they're good analogies, though. They're not stupid.
Think about the health food versus the junk food. The junk food in the moment tastes better, sexier, fun, yummy, great. But 10 minutes later, after that glazed raised donut, you don't feel so good, right? But you eat the health food. Okay, maybe it's not as cool and sexy and fun in the moment, but long-term feels so much better. And so when we have this kind of, when the masculine is in service to the feminine then restores the masculine. You do the dishes and take care of the house and keep things protected and whatever, and then she gives you a back rub at night, right? Like that. Does it get any better than that?
It doesn't.
I saw where your mind went. By the way, I heard that.
It's not an R-rated PG-13. But listen, I'll say something to you, because one of the I like anyone and can admit I've got so many things I do wrong, and I feel like I do a lot of things right too. Right? I don't ever want to be the guy that says I'm perfect.
Dude, I'm a nightmare. Are you kidding?
Yeah, we all have our stuff. I've got some people very close in my life that have been married multiple times. Men, just filled with pride, just filled with it. And there was a point in my marriage where I received some comments from these people in my life that my wife ran the show, that my wife was all these things, and was I a pussy, and all, you're such a wimp, and all those things. There's two quick things about that. If you asked my wife here right now, my wife cares about the color of the drapes. I don't. She cares about what the couch and the birthday party and going to my mom's looked like. I didn't care. And if Chris were here right now, she'd tell you, I didn't care about the 9 out of the 10 things. It wasn't that I was giving that to her. I didn't care about it, and it was important to her. But if there's something that's important to me, she's like, that's on you. What are we going to do? And the moral of that story was, I watched some people very close to me go through these marriages of just filled with pride, and it was so important for them to be right, and they crushed the spirits of their wives. And then when the divorce happened, they didn't know why, because they felt like they had to be the man. If you ask my wife, one of the reasons why we're still married after 30 years is I think we kind of both found what's important to her and what's important to me. And you're absolutely right. Nothing made me feel better when I did something that maybe my pride didn't want me to do, but it filled her cup. Mm-hmm. And then it sure as heck did give me a better opportunity to have a good night kiss with my wife, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It sure did make her feel the next day like that dude loves me. Like, he's stupid sometimes, but that dude loves me. Mm-hmm. To bring this full circle, I find that to be a challenge more with men than women. Do you feel like men have a hard time surrendering? They think they're going to surrender their lives. They're not. They're surrendering the parts that are important to their spouse to make them feel better, to make their relationship stronger. Why do you think most men struggle with that? I know that was a long dissertation to get somewhere, but...
The answer could be potentially a lot longer.
Yeah.
So let's look at masculinity over the last 80 years or so.
Yeah.
Ever since the end of World War II, we are a society of men raised primarily by women, right? My grandfather, the greatest generation, they were fighting World War II. Kids were raised by mom, right? Even when they came back, they were working. Mom was home. So their sons were raised by their teachers that were overwhelmingly women and their moms, right? And in order to have a society of conscious men, you need a society of conscious men. It takes a conscious man to raise a conscious man, right? And so what happens is we have a huge generation, a huge population of men that were primarily raised by women, and or they had abusive fathers, overbearing fathers, absentee fathers, some combination thereof.
Sure.
And tribal cultures understand this, that there's that rite of passage. Today you are a man. You're invited on the hunt, or you go out in the jungle and kill a wild animal. If you get eaten, too bad, Junior. Like you got to stack up and be a man. It's time to take your place among the men in your community. It's no longer about you, Junior. We don't really have that in Western civilization.
Yeah, right.
Now,
Interesting. Yeah.
So here's what happens, and here's what's been happening over the last 8 decades, is that we have a society of men that have been conditioned and trained to seek the approval of women. That's a huge emasculation kind of thing.
Huge.
Now, because the masculine hates that. It wants to be in service to the feminine, not approved by it. So, and I've had this conversation with a lot of, single women in particular. I said, when was the last time a man showed up at your door, like for a date or whatever, and his first thing is, so where do you want to go? Like, what do you want to do?
Right.
He's not creating a plan, executing a plan, doing that, right? He's approval seeking.
Right. He's saying, hey, let's...
And the feminine does not think that's sexy, right?
No, they want him to say, hey, come get in the car. Here's some flowers.
Right. Here's what we're doing,
and
right?
We're going for barbecue.
Have a shitty plan before you have no plan,
yeah, right?
But we're not trained this way. And so what happens is that this fear and threat of emasculation that's already really present because we haven't been raised right. If there's anything more difficult in this world to be than a man who feels in some way, shape, or form emasculated, it's being the woman that has to deal with that guy. That's brutal. You take a guy who's been unemployed for 6 months, ask him how his marriage is going, right? She's at her wit's end, and they're really in trouble because he's picking fights and he's trying to reclaim that sense of masculinity that he doesn't realize he's lost.
Yeah.
Right. And so now this has been conditioned over time with the approval seeking and whatever. And so we get these guys get really locked in their ego. They're terrified to be of service to the feminine because they don't understand the difference between service and approval.
Yeah. If I ever can find a way where I don't have to work to make money to pay my bills, and I'm going to have you on again because something I'm very passionate about is the emasculation of boys and men today. And this is not a knock on women.
No, it's not about fault.
It's not about fault. I know more women. No one wants the abusive womanizer male and the domineering and leave me alone, and no one wants what took place in the earlier years and decades. But I know more women who don't want to be in a relationship with an emasculated man. They want to have a voice. They want to be respected. They want to be heard, as you know, right? They want to be heard, and they want their opinion and their decisions to be equal. It doesn't mean each person has an equal decision. But the next time we sit down, we're going to spend the entire time on that because I've started doing some research and I feel like there's an audience who can really benefit, believe it or not to help the men, but to help the men become better for relationships for women that I think will make everything a little more cohesive.
Makes it all better, yeah.
Or try. I'm out of time, but I'm going to go... I want 2 or 3 minutes on something because it piqued my interest, and then we'll wrap up. Give me 2 or 3 minutes on why no sports. Who's your favorite sports team? No sports. I quit sports.
I quit sports. I quit sports the way people quit smoking or alcohol. Because I recognize it for what it is. It's kind of surface level.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's distraction. It's numbing out. It's checking out. It's creating a fantasy ideation around something that isn't really real. You ever hear that sports fan, it's like, talks about his team last night. It's like, oh yeah, we won. It's like, we?
I hate that, by the way.
Are you kidding me?
I'm like, you have a contract, you're not on TV, that's not we.
So, but the brain doesn't understand the difference between fantasy and reality. It only understands what you tell it. So if you're telling it we won, it thinks you won.
Yeah.
And that's subsequently, you get dopamine hits. This is just neurochemistry, right? You get dopamine hits from talking about we winning, which lessens your drive to actually go out there and win. So this is like, they used to say, talk about your goals because it makes you accountable to them.
Yeah.
Now the science is the opposite. Stop talking about your goals because you get all your dopamine hits from talking about it instead of getting your dopamine hits from doing it, right?
Yeah.
So the doers don't talk and the talkers don't do.
Interesting.
That
is a shift, by the way.
It is. It's a huge shift. The other thing is it takes me away from my family or my friends. It takes me away from my girl. It's like I'm going to sit on the couch for 9 hours on a Sunday when I could be spending time with Jennifer. Yeah. It's like that. This is a no-brainer, right?
Yeah,
and so
I get it.
So I just recognize that this is all distraction. This is all entertainment. This is all a show that is taking me away from an infinite number of important things
that are more important to you.
Right.
I love that.
So go Kings, and I don't care, right? As a hockey guy, it's like I can watch the game and enjoy it, right?
But you don't
the
need
emotional
to be
investment, the fantasy teams, like this is actually physiological damaging to the neurochemistry if you're too far over that line.
Yeah. I love that. I could always talk to you for way more time than I have on this
do this all day.
podcast. Yeah. Chris King is a dear friend of mine, and you've kind of heard like what he does. And although he doesn't like to use that word, I'm going to help people. He really tries to create a different mindset. And that word coach doesn't do it justice. I call him a shaman in a fun way, but he's really, really talented at just maybe guiding people to change that alignment, as you've heard. So Chris, I want you to look in that camera. I want you to tell people, now I think have 7.9 listeners. We just ticked up a little bit. Tell people if they want to engage with you. We'll promote you on social media, but how can they call you, email you, just find you, just to kind of get a hold of you right in that camera?
Yeah, you can go to the website, chrismking.com. You can also Instagram, the Chris M. King. You can find me on LinkedIn, but the website's probably easiest. I think everything is there.
Yeah. I'm so excited to hear about your relationship. I love watching you just share what you're passionate about, because it does help people feel differently about themselves, and you're kind of pulling something out of them that whether someone else couldn't help them pull it out or they couldn't pull it out on their own, you are helping them pull something out of them that's giving them a little bit of a different energy and a little bit different vigor, and ultimately a little bit of success in personal health, which means more than any sort of business success. So thanks for sitting down and just carving it out and letting me cut it up a little bit. I know we're just going to promote the snot out of this because I think more people need to hear your message. So thanks for sitting down with me, brother. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man. I'll talk to you anytime. Love you, man.
Stay tuned. We'll try and bring you more great people who you should know in your life.